What's up, guys? Short video. I want to talk to you today about self-care and mental health. It's one of the things that isn't really considered when we're looking at a 30-day challenge, when we're looking at fat loss, when we're looking at just getting on top of your overall health. It's a thing that's sort of pushed to one side. What I want to do is make sure that we cover some of the basics. Now, this is going to be super simple. We're not going into any detail. However, if you want to dig a little bit deeper after watching this video, we have a lot of hour-long webinars covering different areas of these topics on the YouTube channel. So feel free to dig further into those if you want to after watching this. The basics we've tried to cover in this, and we're looking at physical recovery, physical self-care during a training plan, because when we start to exercise and we start to put new things in and we're trying to get on top of our health, there's a few things that there's a few mistakes that we see quite a bit in terms of people might do a little bit too much, not really be on top of the recovery, and little injuries will start to creep in. And that'll be the thing that ultimately stops you getting results. And the exact same, not considered as much for the most part, but it's the exact same from the mental health side of things and the mental performance side of things, which we'll talk about a little bit more. In terms of the things that are stopping you getting to your goals are actually just habits that you need to change. And a lot of the time it comes down to organizational changes and just thinking a little bit differently about things, treating things a little bit differently, setting your day up differently so that you can make progress. So without going into any more detail about that, let's get into today's video. What we're going to cover is physical recovery from exercise and how to minimize injury risk. Again, super simple. We go into a lot more detail on some of the bigger videos, some of the live webinars that we've done and so on. We're going to mention creating good habits, stress versus boredom, and what triggers are you using for your relaxation? You know, what triggers are the things that help you switch off, and are they working for you or against you? And what can we do to make sure that that all aligns and that all gets on target? So guys, before we get into this, I just want to pull it back to this. Everything that we talk about is going to be in the context of your why. What do you want to achieve over the next 30 days? This is obviously the 30-day challenge. And we are looking at specifically what you're wanting to achieve and why this is so important to you. You need to be clear on that. I know that you've heard it before, but I just want to make sure that that is framing everything that you look at, everything that you listen to. What is it specifically that you want to achieve? Why is this important to you? And how are you going to feel when you get there? And one exercise that I get a lot of the clients to do and a lot of people that I work with to do is actually look at this vision of where they're going to be, and imagine that we're 30 days down the line and you've got to that goal that you want. And you're telling me how you've done it. What did it take for you to say, you know what, I got to that goal. I did everything that I needed to do and I got to my goal. So just as we're framing this, just have that in your head. What is it going to take for me to get to where I want to be? And now we're going to go into the physical performance management. So guys, physical recovery, we can look at different methods, we can look at different things, we can look at stretching and yoga, we can look at movement, we can look at sleep and rest, nutrition, other recovery modalities. I'm actually not going to dig into a huge amount of detail on any of these. All of these have their own videos if you want to go and watch them. But one of the key things is actually managing your training. So rather than looking at these physical recovery modalities that are listed there, what we want to be aware of is managing your training load and making sure that your training is something that you can cope with. So if you've not trained for the past couple of months, going into some form of higher intensity exercise every day, it's probably going to be a little bit too much. So make sure that your program is something that's considering the amount of recovery that you'll need and the types of training are something that suit you. Providing that you're doing that, here's a couple of things. Listen, sleep and rest are probably the main thing that you need to be aware of, making sure that you've got adequate rest, making sure that you're sleeping enough. That alongside nutrition, they are going to be the most powerful tools. If they are not right, if you're not somewhere near where you need to be with that, then long-term there are going to be some issues in terms of how much exercise you can recover from and how much adaptation you get from this training. Beyond that though, just in terms of feeling good, in terms of moving well, in terms of making sure that we're looking after everything that we need to, some form of stretching and mobility work, whether you do this as you warm up, whether you do it as your cool downs, whether you do it daily when you wake up, or whether you have it as a structured class such as yoga, structured sessions, whichever way works best for you, but try to make sure that you're including some just general movement work in your day. Low intensity movement in general wants to be included pretty much as often as you can. Now, that's going to be different person to person. I know that some people can include a hell of a lot of this. Some people can't include that much. But making sure that you are trying to keep generally active in addition to your training, if possible, will go a long way to just helping this overall recovery. There's reasons for that. I'm not going to go into it. But guys, other more recovery modalities as well. You know, if you feel like you want to include things like massage, you want to include things like foam rolling, you want to include structured recovery techniques, cryotherapy, compression, by all means include it. But the big things that you need to be aware of is that you're moving often enough, you're moving well, and you're sort of creating this full movement and allowing your body to be mobile. So some sort of stretch-based session will be really useful. But the main things, sleep and nutrition and rest. Being on top of those three areas are going to be absolutely key. Now, moving into a bit more of an injury management side of things, chronic to acute workload, you guys don't really need to worry about that. All that is, in terms of what it means, what you need to do is just ask yourself the question, is what I'm doing now a massive change to what I'm usually doing? And if it is, then we need to be mindful that you're going to have to be aware of your recovery. If it's a big jump up in terms of how much work you're doing over this week versus what you've done for the past, say, 6 weeks, then you need to be aware that that could be leading to some sort of injury risk and some sort of issues that are coming up. If it's a bit of an increase, obviously it can be a huge jump, and that's absolutely fine, providing that you are really on top of your recovery work and you are really aware that you're working within your capabilities on these sessions. And we will build week on week. Too much too soon is where the issues are going to come out of. So absolutely value your rest days, absolutely value your recovery sessions. Every session isn't about going all in and smashing yourself into the floor. Some sessions are going to be more focused, like I said, on mobility. Some are going to be more focused on strength, some on different areas of that cardiovascular system. So some might be top end, some might be just building a base. So making sure that every session has a target and has its own target, and you're aware of what you're trying to achieve, so that you're not just doing as much as you can for as long as you can in every training session, is going to be really important. And one thing that people get wrong is that they think a more advanced program, a more difficult program, will always lead to better results. That is absolutely not the case. The program that is designed at the level that you're at will lead to better results. So making sure that if you need to rest, you are putting rest days in. If you need to do lower intensity work to get started and get moving, that is going to lead to the best results, rather than trying to pick the most advanced type training that you can do and trying to just sort of smash yourself through with it. So guys, from a physical self-care point of view, physical recovery point of view, injury management point of view, we are done for today. So we're going to move into managing your mental performance, managing your focus, managing your routine and things like that. And something that I know is coming up for a lot of people at the minute are these two areas, and they look completely conflicting, and certainly there are differences, but they lead to a lot of the same problems. So stress versus boredom. Now, if you're feeling stressed at the minute, you probably feel like you've a hell of a lot to do with not much time to do it. There's obviously going to be people with financial uncertainty and a lot of other things going on that are adding to this stress. And the chances are you've had a big change in your routine over the past couple of weeks. This big change in your routine means that your stress management strategies must change, especially if you used to use things like exercise or things like different food strategies. You know, you used to eat or takeaways or have a drink when you were getting stressed. Well, if you're on this challenge, that's not the eating and drinking to deal with stress isn't going to work anymore. You know, that's going to go directly against what you're trying to achieve. Flip side is that if you're on this challenge and you used to use training, well, that might not be the best approach either. And we'll go into why. Again, it's covered in much more detail in some of the other videos. But what we need to do is make sure that you know how you're going to manage your stress throughout this period. And the flip side is a boredom, is that you might be sat at home for a hell of a lot more time than you used to being at home. So eating and drinking just becomes routine because it's there. You know, you're at the fridge, you want a break from being sat in the office. And guys, trust me, I know, and this has been something that I think that everybody working from home at the minute will be dealing with, or everybody working with a different routine. You just want something to sort of get in the way. You want a bit of a distraction. And if you've no routine, you can easily find that you are constantly either sat in the office and just sort of working all day, or not really sure what you're trying to achieve all day. So making sure that you've got a routine and a clear focus, guys, that's going to be so important moving forward over the next couple of weeks, and getting the best results possible over the next 30 days is going to mean managing your day. The reason that we've covered stress and boredom in the same slide on this one is that the tactics to get on top of it are pretty much the same. So we're going to talk about habits, creating good habits. Listen, this is taken absolutely from the book Atomic Habits, and it is something that we use often with our clients. What you want to do is your good habits need to be obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Your bad habits need to be invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. And that's how we're going to create these habits that are going to work for you, and get rid of these habits that aren't going to work for you. Let me give you an example. And we'll talk about this a little bit more in the next slide as well. But say you have had a stressful day, and your usual way to sort of cope with a stressful day is a habit of going to the fridge, getting a beer. Well, if you've always got a beer sat in the fridge, and 5 o'clock on a Friday, when you are saying, I'm going to switch off, you go to the fridge, you go open a beer, as soon as you sit down, boom, different state of mind, you're in a different place. Well, getting that beer was certainly obvious. It was attractive. The beer was probably cold in the fridge. It was the first thing that you saw. It was easy. And you know that as soon as you sit down, you've got that change of state, and you are now switched off for your weekend. The issue is that might not be the best way to deal with, or the best habit to have, to switch off for your weekend. So what we'll look at is this: what's stopping you, and what are the triggers stopping you from getting to where you want to be? Say that you've had a stress, or whatever that is, and these are the ways that you deal with it. You might have a glass of wine, you might get takeout, you might go and get some chocolate. That might be one of the things that you use. The thing that you've got to ask is, are these getting you towards your goal, or could they be getting in the way? Now, just having this might not be stopping you getting to your goal. So can you have a glass of wine and lose body fat? Absolutely. Can you get an occasional takeaway and lose body fat? Absolutely. Can you include some level of chocolate in your diet? Again, yes, but is this getting in the way? And are there too many of these triggers and too many ways that you're dealing with things that are coming up that aren't helping you get to where you want to be? And if that's the case, we need new strategies. We need to change things. So example such as what we've just gave in terms of getting a beer, but let's change it a little bit. Let's look at busy, stressful day, you're hungry, you've no time, and it comes to Friday night or Saturday night, and you're like, right, I'm going to bring a takeout because I don't want to mess about cooking. I want to just switch off. That exact situation over the next 30 days, if you want to maximize your fat loss and get to where you want to be, what you want is to have a go-to meal ready, so that even though you're in the exact physical state, you can go, yeah, I don't want to mess about cooking, and I need to switch off. But rather than ordering a takeaway and that being the trigger to sort of start to calm everything down, what you could do is have some sort of go-to meal ready, just ready to go in the fridge, really easy. Either stick it in the oven for 20 minutes, stick it in the microwave for 3 minutes, or eat it cold, or even have a shake, something that's ready as a go-to, and have a different strategy, maybe 5 minutes on a meditation app to help you change that mental state. If you do that, it's a habit that's going to be, it's a trigger that's going to start to be a little bit more productive. You are following these triggers with better habits that are going to get you to where you want to be. And guys, the final point on this is that planning and structure throughout your entire day is crucial. If we jump back to the last slide, where we were talking about stress and boredom, the thing is that if you have no plan, if you're used to having a plan for your day, I get up at this time, I get showered, get dressed, have breakfast, go to work, have lunch, go to work, like finish work, get home, deal with the kids, deal with the teas, deal with things like that, work out, and so on. And that's your structure. That's great, because everything that you've got can be built around it. At the minute, a lot of people are missing that structure. That structure is not there. So what we need to do is create a structure. And you actually probably have a lot more freedom than you realize around this at the minute. So it can actually work for you. It can be a massive benefit. But what I want you to do is make sure that you know exactly what your days are going to look like. You've got a clear list of things that you need to complete. You've got a clear idea of when you're going to complete them, including your workouts. And to be honest, what I do is have a list of things that you managed to do as well, because you're going to find that so useful in terms of what needs to carry over, what doesn't. So guys, 3 ways to feel awesome, really key points at the minute. Do your workouts, move often. Make sure that you're moving a lot throughout the day, because we know that overall, this is going to really help. This is going to be things that are just massively beneficial into your ability to just feel good. We know that there's a psychological response. We know that there's endorphins and things, but also you're going to be accomplishing your goals by including a lot of movement and a lot of work and workouts when they need to be done. Make progress towards your goal. That's going to make you feel great if you know that you're moving towards your goal. The thing is that people measure the progress based on just the scales and just the outcome. And these are things that fluctuate. They are never going to go one big straight line down. They might do, but you can never guarantee that, regardless of how perfect you do on the plan. What you can do is look at the process. And if you're wanting to track your diet every day for 30 days, if you're tracking your diet and you've managed to track your diet perfectly every day for 7 days, that's a massive win. If you're saying that you're going to jump on the scales 3 times a week, but not really get stressed about what's happening, just look at it and just respond to it as you need to, or, give us a shout, ask questions in the Facebook group. Again, that's a massive win. So make sure that you're focusing on the processes. And then what we're going to do in the next one is celebrate all these wins. All of these things that you focused on, I need to do this, 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 and this to make sure that I get to my goal. You're going to make sure that they're written down at the end of the day. You're going to make sure that you give yourself credit for doing them, because I can guarantee the days that you don't do them, you'd beat yourself up about it. What we want to do, guys, don't focus on the negatives. Focus on the positive changes that you're making. Focus on the progress that you're making. If you can do these 3 things throughout this stage, I guarantee that you're going to feel great and you're going to make some massive, massive progress towards your goals. Guys, again, if you want to dig a little bit deeper into any of this, there's other videos on the YouTube channel that you can get into a lot more detail about how to build good habits, how to create your motivation, how to look after your recovery, how to manage stress, and so on. So please feel free to dig into that. Any questions, drop them into the Facebook group, and I hope this video helps. I know it's a little bit of a longer one today, but it's covered 2 topics in one. There we go. Cheers.